What's up, everyone? We are talking Season 1, Episode 2 of Nosferatu. Guys, this episode was awesome. Really, really good. We got a lot of information. We got a lot to cover, so we're just gonna go right into it. Hey everyone, I'm Larisse. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. If you like watching the show, I want to do a vlog every week reviewing each episode and doing a quick recap. And I'm doing recaps and discussions about the series itself, and also the book, which I am now about 3/4 of the way through, and I'm really excited because it's so good. I won't give anything major away, but there might be some Easter eggs and little nuggets of information that are also referenced in the book. If you missed my last vlog, I'll leave a link down below so you can watch my recap of episode 1. I missed a couple of things. One thing I wanted to get into that I completely missed, when Charlie pulls out the map of the United Inscapes of America, there are some specific locations on this map that are Easter eggs. So what do we have here? We have Pennywise Circus, and we'll get into the whole Inscape discussion when we talk about the episode later and we hit on that topic. But the Empty Forest, the Treehouse of the Mine, and Lovecraft Keyhole are all references to other works by Joe Hill, the author of the book. Something else I missed when we went over the opening titling sequence. Now, if you don't pause the opening sequence frame for frame, it's very easy to miss these things. So you have to actually go in and pause it frame to frame and see what's in there. I completely missed this child, this little girl, holding up a pair of scissors. Toward the end of episode 1, The Shorter Way, Charlie asks Daniel if he has ever played Scissors for the Drifter. And he says no. So somehow I think that visual of the girl with scissors is Scissors for the Drifter. And it sounds like a very scary game. If you drift, you get scissored. Well, that just sounds wrong. Never mind. Something else that I was tipped off about by the showrunner of the show. So when I tweeted about this, I got a response from the showrunner, Jami O'Brien, a little hint that there are lots of hidden treats in the main title Scrabble tiles. So here we have Christmasland. Here I see Sleigh House. So I thought this was Merry Christmas Bing, but like a half a millisecond later, it turns into Gas Mask Man Bing. And this has Haverhill Manx. Yeah, there you go, House of Sleep. Anyways, those are all the little treats that I picked up on. If I missed any, please leave a comment below and let me know. So let's go into the episode. The Graveyard of What Might Be starts off with Bing composing a letter, an application letter, to work at Christmasland. It is called Spicy Menace Comic Volume 12. In the letter, Bing states his experience as working in custodial services for shipping gases all over the world for 19 plus years, in addition to working as a school janitor. He looks out the window, you just see the moon, and he hears Christmas music. Now, I'm starting to learn every time you hear Christmas music in this show, it's never a good thing. And then he goes upstairs, he enters into the living room, and it looks like a beautiful, sweet, sweet Christmas memory, or a possible flashback and scene, or maybe even happening in real time, you're not quite sure. But he sees his parents dancing together. It looks like just wonderful until the camera pans out and shows you the whole picture. His father's actually dancing with the body of what appears to be his mother, and he drops her and she falls limp to the ground. So that's a disturbing Christmas memory. And then we see his father coming after him with a gas mask on, and it is just such really disturbing imagery. I really like it. But it is still horrifying, so Bing runs downstairs, he shuts the door, he looks out the window, and you hear Christmas music again, and suddenly you hear a child's voice saying, "Hey, mister." He turns around, and who is it? It's Daniel. Not the cute little Daniel that got abducted. The Daniel we saw in the end of episode 1, who doesn't look so friendly and cute anymore. In Daniel's hand, he is holding the invitation, Bing's invitation to Christmasland, and he asks Bing if he's naughty or nice in a very sinister way. And when Bing goes to grab it, Daniel grabs his arm. Bing, who's like 3 times his size, is in pain from the grip of this child. And he says only those who truly deserve it get to go to Christmasland. And you actually hear what sounds like his bones cracking from this child who's like a third his size. It goes to Bing waking up in bed. This has all been a dream. Then he goes to look out the window and he sees the moon, and the moon has a face, and this face winks at him. I feel like there are moons that have winked at me, but I'll leave that one alone. The moon actually resembles Charlie Manx's face. Cue the creepy opening credits. We then go right back to where we left off in the last episode with Vic's story and her storyline, seeing her father in this house of Tiffany's house. She makes the decision to knock on the door and have a conversation with him. He really doesn't have a whole lot to say in defense of himself other than it being for the better, and I think he makes it pretty clear that he considers his marriage over. He also asks Vic how she found him, and she doesn't really answer. All she says was, "It doesn't really matter how I found you, I shouldn't have had to find you." I feel like every time I sit down to do one of these recaps, the ice cream man comes. The ice cream man is back making all this noise. I think like maybe I'm summoning him. When Vic gets back to her house, she tells her mom that her father has moved in with this other woman, Tiffany, and we learn that Tiffany is a bartender, which is obviously not the best thing for him considering he has a problem with alcohol. I really like how the storyline is being handled in the series because I feel like it touches on it more than it did in the book. I really like the actors and the conflicts and the relationships because in addition to all the horror and bad things that are happening in the series, we have this whole other set of problems, real life problems that Vic is also facing. We then cut to Bing at his job doing his custodial services, shipping gases all over the world. He's in the office on his break listening to a ball game and he suddenly hears static and then Christmas music. He tries to change the station, but it keeps playing the same song no matter what he does. He actually unplugs the radio and it's still playing the Christmas music. He looks at the loading dock and as the gate is closing, he sees the Rolls Royce. He runs to the loading dock door, reopens it, and looks around, and there's nothing there. Cut to Vic on the bridge, staring into the tunnel, the entryway to the shorter way. Vic's friend Craig drives up on his bike beside her. Visibly, there is no bridge at this point, but eventually Craig sees the bridge and attempts to drive through it. This character does not exist in the book, so I figured they were going to take that chance to kill someone off really quickly. And I'm actually glad they didn't because I think it gives a little more dynamic to add a character that is a friend of Vic's around her age, because in the book she doesn't really seem to have friends. Despite Craig not making it over the bridge and back, Vic successfully makes it over the bridge and back because she goes over and retrieves his childhood missing stuffed animal bunny Leonard. Vic explains to Craig how going over the bridge has led her to find missing objects. He advises that she not go over again, and he seems a little bit freaked out about the whole situation, understandably so. Craig notices that Vic's eye is not only red, but bleeding. Cut back to being at his custodial job doing lovely custodial duties of cleaning up balls and ding-dongs. Charlie Manx approaches him while he's cleaning one up and ends up in this really interesting position. Wouldn't normally use the word ding-dong, but I'm trying to keep this somewhat PG. But I did get a kick out of this visual. Charlie Manx comes out of the vehicle looking very sharp and spiffy. He introduces himself as CEO of Christmasland, Director of Christmasland Entertainment, and President of Fun. Now this Charlie, I have to say, has a bit of a Wonka quality to him. A much darker emo Wonka, but it's definitely a Wonka quality to him, which I really, really do like. He mentions to Bing he was on his way to find an individual that could lead him to a place we are all familiar with, the shorter way. I think at this point he might have been fishing for information to see if Bing knew anything about the shorter way, but clearly Bing is confused and doesn't understand what he's talking about. It is a bizarre thing to have a man drive up dressed like a Neverland doorman, and then ask about a bridge that's no longer there. Charlie pulls out his letter. Bing asks Charlie if he's offering him a job. Charlie says that he is interviewing him to potentially be head of security at Christmasland. The door to the wraith opens up by itself, and Charlie hands Bing a cold soda, takes him for a little ride. And I gotta tell you, I don't blame Bing. Who wouldn't want to go for a fun ride in an old car with this creepy emo Willy Wonka? I do have to say I really like Zachary Quinto's work as this character a lot. And him bringing this character to life is probably going to be a really key part in making this show a success. Bing's astonishment and fascination with the vehicle is very apparent. There's a very childlike innocence that's very, very played well and executed very, very well, especially in this scene. Charlie asks Bing what kind of gases he has access to at his job. He mentions a few gases, but he specifically mentions something called sebofluoride, which is used for dentists, and it has a gingerbread smell. Perfect for Christmasland. Bing! I didn't do that on purpose. They call this gingerbread smoke. It's an anesthetic, which makes whoever ingests it open to suggestion. Bing mentions to Charlie that he has dreamed about Christmasland, and he mentions the nightmares he's having about not being able to get into Christmasland. Charlie makes it clear to Bing that only very, very special people are able to get into Christmasland. Charlie asks Bing if the moon winked at him during his dreams, and then Bing is out cold, and Charlie takes the soda bottle, which he obviously drugged to knock Bing out. Meanwhile, Vic and her mom are cleaning crappy toilets. The conflict of what Vic's future will entail is brought up once again. College versus going and working with her mom. They continue this conversation in a diner. They go back and forth a little bit more about this discussion about college. Vic brings up that she's concerned about her father who has a drinking problem, living with a bartender. Mom says, don't worry about it, it's not your problem to worry about. One thing Vic said that actually surprised her mom was that I know you're the stronger one of the two, and I know that you're the one that's kept this family together, which I thought was really nice of Vic to say. But we knew there was a big but coming because there's this ongoing conflict about Vic's future. Back at the house, Vic packs a bag and leaves to go to Tiffany's. Her mom points out that it's not fair since it's her father, the one that left. There's definitely a lot of family conflict and drama going on, but Vic leaves anyway. Before leaving to go to Tiffany's, Vic stops by the girl that she babysits for, Haley's house, and you'll notice when she goes up on the porch and talks to her, drawn on the pavement in chalk is what appears to be a gas mask. I completely missed that the first time around. That is really, really creepy. Vic also noticed that she has a candy cane in her hand, and as soon as she sees the candy cane, you hear the high-pitched ringing. She closes her eyes, but when she opens them and she looks, it's actually not a candy cane, it's the chalk that she's holding in her hand. Vic gives Haley a art kit as a present and heads over to Tiffany's, where she sees her father having a rendezvous with Tiffany in a kiddie pool. Tiffany offers up the craft room as a place for Vic to stay. Vic makes one more plea for her dad to come home and asks if there's any chance that he could come home. Once again, he makes it clear that he cannot come home ever again and doesn't intend to come home. So then we're taken to a scene with Sheriff Bly and Maggie where they talk to a woman in a junkyard who claims that she serviced a wraith 32 years ago. When they ask about the owner of the vehicle, she describes Charlie Manx to a T. She also says that her son and grandson both disappeared along with Charlie and the vehicle. The sheriff notes that people disappear without explanation all the time, but the woman makes it very clear that she knows the owner of the car was responsible for the disappearance of her son and grandson. The woman also says the car did spooky stuff. The car would start by itself, and that the car had a mind of its own. And I don't know if this was a slight nod to Christine or not, but I thought about that instantly when she said the car had a mind of its own. I thought about Christine. We go back to Bing and Charlie in the car, and once again, the car is surrounded by snow and what looks to be potentially Christmasland. We learn soon that it is not, even though it looks kind of like Christmasland. Bing asks if they're in Christmasland. Charlie says, no, Christmasland is to the left. He tells Bing that once a year he brings somebody new, somebody very special to Christmasland, but only somebody really special can get in. And he needs somebody very special to help him save 10 children. We need to save 10 children from monsters. Monsters meaning their mom and dads. And then he says the very creepy line, any child would give their teeth to live an eternity in Christmasland. And as we all know in the last episode, Daniel definitely gave his teeth because his teeth had turned into those yellowy claw things. That's a really pissed off snowman. Meanwhile, back in Haverhill, Tiffany's house, it seems to be kind of a nice night until her mom shows up. Conflicts rise between the three adults, tensions rise. Everyone starts bickering at each other, and Vic says, screw this, gets on her bikes and takes off for the shorter way bridge. She goes over the bridge, she comes out on the other side. Where does she end up? Somewhere super, super, super cool. Really exciting. She ends up right in front of Maggie's library. She skids out on the bike, skins her knee, and Vic and Maggie meet. Now, as we know, Maggie has seen the Scrabble pieces spell out the words, the brat. So Maggie's clearly been expecting Vic at this point. So when Vic asks Maggie, where am I? Maggie says, here. Here is in Here, Iowa. There's a town in Iowa called Here. Maggie also tells Vic that she's not going crazy, that she's what is referred to as a strong creative. Vic asks Maggie if she has something for her. She says, yeah, let me take you inside and show you. So here we learn a lot of interesting and important information. Once they get inside the library, Maggie explains that she knew that Vic would be coming because her Scrabble pieces told her so. The Scrabble pieces do not spell out proper nouns for her. It's always some type of nickname. That's why it spelled out the brat instead of her real name. I don't know if this is going to be relevant later on or not, but Vic also compliments Maggie on her fish tank. So what is an inscape? Maggie explains that an inscape is a world you dream up in your imagination. Everyone has them, but only strong creatives can pull the real world into their inscapes with the help of a knife. And Vic's knife is her bite. It's called a knife because it cuts the fabric between the real world and the world in the imagination. Maggie also confirms the pain that Vic is having with her head and her eye and the tinnitus is a side effect of her gift. Maggie also clarifies that she's not a strong creative, she's a medium. It's a little bit different than a strong creative. Yep, that's a pretty appropriate reaction. Once again, she pulls out her Scrabble pieces and the tiles spell out the wraith. When Vic asks about the wraith, Maggie says that the wraith is also a strong creative like her, but this one happens to be a serial child abductor, and alludes to this being the reason this gift was given to Vic, for this purpose of retrieving and finding these missing children. Vic is definitely shaken by all this. She makes it clear to Maggie that she does not want to be the savior of these children, that she really doesn't want any part of this. Vic gets back on her bike, rides to the other side of the bridge. On the other side of the bridge, she's very surprised to find Haley there waiting for her, who sees her come out of the bridge. Vic makes Haley promise not to tell anybody what she saw and to stay away from the bridge. We cut back to Charlie and Bing in their frozen wasteland with Christmas trees, but they don't have any Christmas lights on them. Bing discovers a child who is frozen in the ground beneath the ice. Bing assumes the child is deceased, but Charlie tells Bing that she is indeed not. Charlie explains to Bing that this is the graveyard of what might be. Charlie explains to Bing that these are all children that will have their childhood stolen and robbed of them by their parents if they don't do anything to save them. And of course Bing wants to help these children. He wants to help save and do something to save these children because he doesn't want them to end up dead in the ice. Charlie says you could line all these parents up and put a bullet in their head or a nail. And with that, Bing agrees to help Charlie save the other children. Once Bing agrees to help Charlie, Charlie tells Bing that there's someone in Haverhill that could threaten their mission of saving the children. And then it flashes to Vic, icing down her eye, overhearing her father plow Tiffany. And that is the end of episode 2. Once again, there are definitely some slow moments, but I feel like those slow moments are filled with some interesting storyline. We have real world problems in addition to all the supernatural things that could be happening in the show. I do plan on finishing the book in the next few days. I will let you guys know when I'm done with it because I do plan to do a separate vlog just for the book. I'm super pumped up and excited for the next episode, so I will see you in my recap of the next episode or potentially my recap of the book. Thanks again, guys. Have a great day.
Meow, 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 meow.